Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on YouTube Live. I'm Dr. Howard Elkin, the medical advocate, and tonight it's going to be a bit different than our usual because we're going to be focusing on me and my journey recently. It's like without an outline. It's going to be kind of free spoken, but I think you'll appreciate it. It's taken me a while to be able to come forward with this, so I'm looking forward to this evening with you, spending it with you. So let's just go back a little bit. Many of you know that I published my first book, From Both Sides of the Table When Doctor Becomes Patient, in late 2022. It was a major accomplishment, something I'm very proud about. And it described my journey up to that point. In 2006, I had a small, minor heart attack. Um, Thank God it was very small and minor. But 19 months later, I ended back in the emergency room at Cedar Sinai and requiring emergency back surgery, which was anything but pleasant. I had the surgery. It was not successful. It actually led to permanent nerve damage, and it was kind of a botched up job. So the book describes my struggles and what I had to endure the next few years to fix myself because I was very broken after that surgery. So the book tells me it really depicts my journey, but it's much more than that. It was apparent to me that I was going to use my voice to be a spokesperson for a healthier lifestyle and what to do and how to be your own medical advocate. So I evolved to the role of the medical advocate because I certainly wasn't at that time. And you'll see the first chapter is, the denial. It ain't just a river in Egypt. And I did all the wrong things at that point. Although I was embarking on a very healthy lifestyle, I was clueless about myself. And so I learned quite a bit through my journey. But that was a long time ago. And the book was published to the end of November. Anyway, so I'm going to bring you what happened since then. And this is not meant to be an autobiography. I don't want to focus on the events because we all have stress, and I've gone through a lot of stress in the last few months. So starting in mid-October, my mother had a stroke. My elderly mother had a stroke. And I remember visiting her on a Saturday night. She couldn't even talk. She was drugged up. I mean, I just held her hand for 2 hours and I went home feeling very discouraged. And my partner wanted to talk to me, and he had not been doing well. He had stage 4 kidney cancer and had it for many, many years. And he said, Howie, I am my own medical advocate. I know my body, and I'm done. I'm done. And my heart fell to my feet, and I knew that I had a new job at hand, and that was to prepare my partner for death. And that's what I did over the next 9 days. I don't remember any of the details, but I did it along with working full time in my practice. And then he passed away on the 28th of November, and then the grief began. And nobody can prepare you for grief when someone dies, even though this person had a horrible prognosis from the very beginning. He kept rallying over and over again. I thought maybe he'll live forever, wishful thinking, right? Because he just kept on coming back and rallying, but he didn't this last time, the fall of 22. And so I lost him, and the grief was humongous. And then on January 3rd, I underwent a necessary back surgery, my second back surgery. Hopefully, this would be my last back surgery, and this one was successful, thank goodness. And I did not have to have any other no further damage, no neurologic deficits. I was very fortunate in that regard. And then I coming back to work, and my office manager in many years, Mary, who many of you know, we all love Mary, but she announced she was leaving. So another loss, right? A big loss, not just a minor loss. I've known Mary for like 34 years, and she worked with me for at least 16 or 17. And we're still very good friends, but another loss. And I dealt with it. And fortunately, Adela, my front office receptionist, was able to step up her place and doing a great job. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened in April. I think we all can experience disappointments from people that we deal with, family members, friends, business associates. We all go through stress and resentments. It's part of life. You can't get along with everybody at all times. And So what happened is that there was a family event, more specifically my mother's 97th birthday, and I'm not going to go into any details, so this doesn't really matter. But there was quite a bit of family drama, which left me feeling very hurt and very isolated, and um, and I just couldn't shake it off. Anyway, that was April the 8th. 2 weeks later, exactly 2 weeks later, on the 22nd of April, I awakened at 2:12 a.m. with pain literally from my shoulder all the way down to my wrist. It wasn't just pain, it was a burning sensation. It was as if someone lit a match to my arm and poured gasoline on it. I never found anything so intense. It was horrible. I had to get out of bed and pace the floor. And I took a Motrin and I said, what is this? I've never found anything like that. And then it got a little better and then transferred to the left arm. I said, okay, based on my age, my previous medical history, early morning hours, bilateral arm pain, this is a heart attack to prove it otherwise. And I dialed 911. But they were there within 5 minutes. By the time they came, I had no pain. I actually walked to the front door and let them in. They couldn't believe it. I said, well, this would be really ridiculous if I go to my own hospital and it's a false alarm. But we went. And I went to the emergency room. My EKG was like normal or pretty much close to normal, nothing suggesting a heart attack. But my enzymes were elevated. So there was something definitely wrong. So usually the ER doctor calls the cardiologist on call. And this is the role I know quite well from many years of being on call. This time I called the cardiologist, who was a friend of mine. I said, Jerry, I'm having a heart attack. I'm in the emergency room. Can you please come in and meet to do the cath lab? Which is what he did. And I had a 95% blockage. And we used to call it the widowmaker, but that's sexist, so we can't say that anymore. It was successfully stented, and I spent a day and a half in the hospital, and everything was great. I mean, I had no problems from that point on, but it's like, it just started, what am I going to do now? Do I feel defeated because I wrote this book on wellness and I've done all the right things, and yet I had a heart attack? This doesn't look too good. So I had to really process this, and it took me a couple months to do it. But I know that I had to come transparent about it for the right reasons. Some of my colleagues says, maybe you shouldn't come forward about this. Maybe you should just keep it secret or not let it be unveiled. I couldn't do that because I have a message. And so do I feel defeated now that I look back at all this? And the answer is absolutely no. Because number one, as my own medical advocate, I made the right decision. I dialed 911. I did not hesitate. And number two, I survived. I survived the second event. It was 17 years, almost 17 years from the first one. So I consider myself fortunate. But what have I learned? What have I learned through this process? And that's really the important thing to share with you tonight, because what I did is that I let this resentment run me. I couldn't get past it. I couldn't let it go. It's like I felt so hurt, betrayed, disappointed. This is my family, right? And it doesn't matter who's right. We all had a part in it. I wasn't perfect. I mouthed off as a result, and I was also I was partly to blame, but it didn't mitigate the negative feelings I had about being isolated from my family and the hurt. So, I'm trying to do this about being emotional about it. So I didn't handle it well. And 2 weeks later, after that event, I ended up in the hospital with this heart attack. So, what is a lesson to be learned? What can I possibly tell you that will help another person? And that is, we cannot harbor resentments, because all it does is hurt me, the individual that's harboring this resentment. Yes, you should label your resentments. It's normal. We all go, I learned this in 12-step program. You learn to do, it's called a 10th step. And it's really great. And you get to talk about what resentments you had for the day. And most days I don't have any, but let's say you have a resentment, you have to write it down, you label it. Labeling a resentment is really important because it brings awareness to you. But then if you can't change it, you got to let it go. Because if anything, you cannot change other people's thought processes. You can't change their feelings about you. You can't change anything. when it involves another person. So you either accept what happens, and if it's unacceptable, you make boundaries with these people. If you tend to, since they are family, you do want to maintain a relationship with them, but you have to have safe boundaries that this cannot happen again. And then when it comes to me, I have to let this go. I can no longer harbor resentments. I label it. I do what I can. I love this saying by Maya Angelou. It's like, okay, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. And that's what we're talking about here. My attitude was, I, I just couldn't get out of it. So what am I doing now? So the question is, what am I doing now to prevent any further attacks? This is kind of scary, right? I don't look at it like that. I don't look at, oh God, am I going to have another heart attack in my lifetime? Is it going to eventually kill me? I don't think that way at all. I think very positive. This is what I want to inculcate to my patients and my audiences, people that come to me. That's, we all have these problems. We all have confrontations and so forth. It's what you do with it that really matters. And I really wasn't handling it that well. Now, listen, I do meditation. I do deep breathing. I do all these steps that I have done for several years since my first cardiac event. It's all described in my book. I have a chapter on relaxation and meditation practice. So I was doing all that. What else can I do? Well, first of all, it's about reducing some of the stress in your life. So up until April, I was taking call at the hospital at least 3 times a month, sometimes 4 times a month. Now, being on call means 7 a.m. until 7 a.m. the next day. And that means you take anything, any emergency, someone that needs a pacemaker, someone that's in the throes of an acute heart attack. And your role is to go in there with a cath lab team and do everything in your power to open up that artery and save a life. And it's a very humbling experience. And I always appreciated doing it. But I am an adrenaline junkie. And to the point in which after doing something like that, I can't go back to sleep. So my sleep took, when I was on call, because you never know when you're going to get called, right? And so I gave up being on call. So now I no longer take call after 35 years, 36 years. And I even gave up doing the procedures that I love doing, like angiograms, pacemakers. It's time to let someone else do that. So I have colleagues in the hospital, younger guys than me, who will gladly do this for me on my behalf and take care of my patients. I don't have to do it all anymore. I'm still a doctor. I'm still making their decisions and helping people, but I gave up the procedural part and the on-call part, which frees up a lot of stress, which is really nice. What else am I doing? I am really looking at other ways. I mean, I'm still meditating. I always did meditation every day, but the big thing is to really be on top of my resentments, and if I have any, and to deal with them the best way I can, and not keep them inside anymore. Because when you keep them inside, and this is something I read, very interesting. Oh, I left it away. Give me 1 second. Sorry. I forgot about this. Okay, I just did some reading about this last night. Researchers found, this is from the British Heart Foundation recently in this last year. Researchers found that in the 2 hours immediately feeling angry, a person's risk of a heart attack increased nearly 5-fold. Okay, and the risk of stroke increased more than 3-fold. Now, that's amazing to me that our emotions can play such a big role in our health, our overall health. So that's rage. I do not consider myself a rageaholic, but maybe chronic anger or resentment is worse. I don't know. So I didn't but I can let it out too. I mean, I'm not a rageaholic, but I have used rage in the past, and it's not necessarily to my advantage. So what happens with stress? Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. There's also an increased tendency of your blood to coagulate, to clot. This is like the perfect setup for a heart attack. Now, if you looked at my angiogram, the films, that I had a very distinct look on my where I had the blockage. It wasn't just a blockage. I had what's called an ulcerated plaque, which meant I had a plaque that could have been there for years, that was very stable. And through all this 2 weeks of just pure hell, something happened. And that that plaque ruptured. So I had a stable plaque, possibly for years, that became an unstable plaque, which ruptured. And then once it ruptured, a blood clot develops, and then there's no blood can get past that point, and you develop a heart attack. I mean, I could have died, but when I didn't, I'm here to tell the story in a way that it's not shame based. This did happen to me, and here's the thing, guys: it can happen to anybody. It can happen to any of you. Do not think you are immune. I'll never forget when I had my first cardiac event in November 2006. Literally a month later, my nurse at the time, it's a wonderful nurse, Heidi, and she was healthy as a horse. She's in church on Christmas Eve, and it's all in my book. And she can't move her right leg or left leg, and then she can't talk. And then within 5 minutes, she's in full blown coma. And then she died 2 weeks later. This person was on no medication, was very healthy. So when I say, and the name of that chapter is No One is Immune. I mean, her illness and passing was certainly more significant to me than my own heart attack, which was very minor then. So it can happen to anyone. So this is my ongoing journey, so to speak, my epilogue. Is it a new book? I don't know. It's not my new book. I just thought it was time to come forward with what's really been happening. We all go through stress. We all lose loved ones, and we have to deal with grief. And I don't care what anyone says, you can't prepare for that. Because for 8.5 years, my role was to keep my partner alive, and I was going to do everything in my power to give him a happy life. And we had a wonderful life together until the very end. So grief kind of sets up the stage, right? And then you had a loss and family drama, and I don't know. I'm a double Leo, so I wear my feelings in my sleeves. I'm a very sensitive person, and being sensitive, I think, is a blessing and a curse. I think it's more of a blessing than a curse because you become very empathic, and that's why I think I'm good at what I do because I care about people. But then what happens? You get hurt, and you have to be able to shake it off. And this is what I'm going to have to learn. There's no books about this. No one prepares you for grief. No one prepares you for death. But it's like how to remodel how you handle things. Because I'm already meditating. I'm already in the moment. I do activities that help reduce my stress all the time. But it obviously wasn't enough. So that's my message to you is don't let stress and resentment get to you to the point in which it impacts your health. Okay, because what happened to me could happen to any of you, and um, because I am in good shape, and and what I didn't tell you is that I had my Cleveland Heart Labs done 2 weeks before my event, and I didn't have the results back in time. But my results never looked more perfect. I have pristine labs, blood pressure, lipids, no inflammation. Everything was perfect, right? Near perfect. And this still happened. So you can't just bark at that. You have it. You can't bank on it. It can happen to anybody at any time. So you don't live in fear. I'm not living in fear of what could happen next. I'm just being really proactive now in everything that I do. I gave up the hospital route, the hospital calls and the procedures. That's a big chunk of stress that's being reduced to my plate now. It's really, really nice to get that out of the way. I just realized the sun is really bright here. I should be back. Sorry. Sorry, guys. That was a major change. What else can I do? I just try to stay in the moment and be thankful for what I have. I think when you go through a life altering experience like this for the second time, it makes you really appreciate what you have, And I've lost a lot in the last year, but I still go forward. And that we all have to do that. So I think of myself as a symbol. When I wrote my book and when I am promoting it, it's because I want people to know they have options. Traditional medicine doesn't cut it. Oftentimes, it doesn't have all the answers. So I try to be that bridge between traditional and more alternative, I guess you can call it. And and I'm still doing it, but it all boils down to how do we handle stress? How do we handle anger? We don't want to mouth off at other people, and I've done that in the past. That isn't helpful either. But you can't take it in. You can't take in someone's negative feelings about you. You have to let it go. And if it really bothers you, and you have to avoid toxic situations. But it's hard when it's your own family, right? And I don't want to avoid them. I love my family, but boundaries are important, and knowing when to let go and to let go of the stress or the resentment is so vitally important. So that is really my message tonight. So I'd love any comments. It's different than my usual. I didn't give you any factual stuff so much, but the thing about stress is really important. The fact that just 2 hours after major stress, and anger, feeling angry can increase your risk of a heart attack and stroke. So that was for the British Heart Journal, and that's not me. So this is real stuff. And if you look at what happens when we harbor anger, it's not good. So thank you so much for listening. And let me see, I got some comments here. So let me go back into the sun. I'm sorry, this time of year it's changing. Okay, what are the best ways personally you found for dealing with stress? Um, okay, and I've been doing this for a long time. First of all, you have to set aside some time to to you need a meditation practice in your life. So I do it in the morning because I'm clear. I do it before I get out of bed. I sit up in bed, and I work on my breathing, and I work on meditation, and then I'll end it. Sometimes I'll do like a visualization. I'll visualize. I'll talk to my heart. I'll talk to whatever may be ailing me, and tell it to calm down, to relax. And then I usually end it with prayer. I'm not a religious person, but I'm spiritually based. So I'll pray for people that are in my life. I also pray for patients that are ill and friends that are ill. I think it's important. So I believe in prayer from a distance. So that really grounds me. Then like a cold shower, and I'm ready to go. Um, so that's one thing. And I do activities that keep me in the moment. One of my best videos that I did, I think, it was being in the present moment. So I bodybuild, I write, I dance, and I sing. And these are the activities that keep me in the moment. It could be playing bridge, it could be, you know, taekwondo, it could be, tai chi, because when you do these activities, you're in the moment and you don't have time to dwell on the negative. So that's helped me in the past. Now I have to go beyond that because I have to change my attitudes, right? Like she said, can't change it. Change your attitude. Easier said than done, but you do have the power. This event has helped me feel powerful, that I don't have to do things that way anymore. I don't have to harbor resentment and hostility. I can grow from this experience, and that's why I felt comfortable being transparent about it, because maybe I'll help someone else, because these are common things. Okay, back to the questions. It's so bright in here. I don't think I can see it. Okay, what are you? Okay. Let's see. You are part of what we have, and we appreciate. Thank you. That was a compliment. Thank you for sharing. Okay, thank you guys. I love that. Do you truly walk the talk? I do. You guys are all compliments. Any comments or questions? I love the compliments, but this one's really, it's for me, but it's for you. And I feel like if I was going to do my book all over, but I didn't want to talk about this for a long time because, it doesn't matter what the argument was or who was right or who was wrong. It matters that there was discord amongst family members, and you can't always win. So is it important to win or to be heard? And I guess I felt like I wasn't really heard. And I've had this issue since I was a little boy. I used to have temper tantrums because I never felt heard. Um, my party say up. I see a Howie temper tantrum coming on. So I don't really think I'm a Rachel-holic, but I was when I was a kid, and you know, and I guess as an adult, I want to be heard. I don't have to be right. And I think I learned a lot through this experience. And I'm glad to share it with you. Okay, let's see. What are your tricks for compartmentalizing your emotions? Wow. Okay. Well, I'm pretty good at um, Carp, carp, can't ever pronounce that word, compartmentalizing, because you have to. If you've gone the professional route that I have in medicine, like when I'm on call, when I was on call, and I had to go in and open up an artery. That's all I thought about. I'm in the moment. I'm in an acute emergency. Someone's life is on hold, and it's up to me and God to do that. So that's easy for me. It's I can separate work, church from state, so to speak. The hard part for me is dealing with my sensitivity and feelings of hurt. And I take it, people say you take things too personally. Really? Must take things impersonally? What's the opposite? Um, I don't think it's bad being taking things personally, but it can run you and can leave you very disappointed because you expect people to be the way you want them to be, and it's not that way. It's not that way. So, and this is what I've learned, and I think now where I hope to go forward is to be less. See, I'm hard on myself, so that's why I'm hard on other people. It's because I expect more out of myself, so I expect more out of people around me. Whether it's coworkers or whether it's family. So, and that's me needing to change my attitude because not everybody's going to be like me, for better or for worse. So, thank you. Okay, let's see. We talked. Okay, um, let's see. Is there any of the questions here? So, and to close, um, stress is always going to be there. Yes, I went through an unusual amount in a very short period of time, but I'm no victim. I'm not crying the blues about the stress. The biggest stress was losing my partner and the grief that has been never ending. It's every day I have to deal with this grief, but I deal with it the best way I can. Sure, working helps, helping people helps, being with my children and my grandchildren, working out and doing the things I love, they all help, But it's been a tough few months for me. And I'm sure some of you, I identify when someone loses a spouse or a partner or a family member, I just drop what I'm doing and I get into their emotions because I want to be that kind of doctor. I'm not just, well, let's just talk about your blood pressure or your cholesterol. I just stop, put everything on hold, and I want to see if I can help them in some way, you know? And, um, and I've had that. See, I have a wonderful support team. I have wonderful friends. And I have to say, people were there for me after my partner passed. And it was really helped me a lot. Just very, it just made the difference in the world. And here's one thing I do want to say, very important. When you go through these periods of grief or whatnot, you cannot, you cannot isolate yourself. I know it was really tough during COVID, right? But you can't isolate yourself because we need people. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world, as the song goes. But it's really true. I don't know how I would have done if I didn't have my support system around me, and I really needed it because I was lost. I had the strength to go on, but like I said, there's no schooling about this. So don't isolate yourself. And the other thing is, you cannot be around any negativity when you're going through a period of grief. Any negativity, grim reapers, people that do not support and love you for who you are, you got to let it go. Either don't hang with them, impose boundaries, or just move on. Um, and sometimes even people that been your friends for years and years, if they no longer support the good in you, and I tell my children this, they've lost certain friends over the years. If they don't support you as who you are, no matter how long you've known them, it's okay to let it go. Let them go. So don't isolate yourself and don't hang around negativity because that's a killer. That's a killer. And learn from me, be in touch with your resentments because they happen. And if you can't change it, and you probably can't, because if it's involving another person that has their own viewpoints, then acknowledge it, and don't feel bad about it. Don't apologize for your feelings. You may have to apologize for your actions, but you don't have to ever apologize for your feelings. And I like this saying I heard recently: don't be afraid of being afraid, because it's natural. We all are that way. So I don't want to live in fear. I want to be easier on myself, and therefore I'll be easier on people around me. And this hopefully won't happen again. Okay. Do you rethink? You okay? Well, thanks. Yeah, put back my transparency. This was an overnight process. I mean, there were a few people that dissuaded me, that tried to dissuade me from doing this. Saying, "What? It might hurt your image." Image. My image is helping people, and to be, I'm not some doctor on this ivory tower that just walks down and gives a lecture and goes back. I'm a regular Joe. I'm a regular human being, and to me, to show my humanness is much more important than being, high in. I have the knowledge. People know that I talk with authority because I do have the knowledge, but sensitivity, I think, is something that I'm very grateful that I do have. I don't know where I got it. I mean, I think I'm definitely, I had my mother, my another great loss. My mother's only sister, my aunt Sally, passed away. She had end stage dementia, so we really weren't communicating. But she was my biggest fan growing up. My biggest fan growing up, and she was very sensitive, and we had a connection. I think based on our sensitivity. She was a wonderful person. So another loss this year. All right. Thank you. I'm getting all these compliments. Thank you, guys. Like I said, I'm feeling good now. It took a few months. I had to process this whole thing, because at first it was like I had another heart attack, and I'm doing all these great things, and I have great labs. How can I possibly tell other people that they're scot free? Well, because you can't. Again, you want to have good labs. You want to have we do all these things to protect ourselves and to live a long, healthy life, but you know, it's not everything's under our control, and that's really what I learned. And I want people to know that we don't stop living. We don't live in fear. We don't, we don't give up. We keep going, but we learn from these experiences. We learn um, how to be easier on ourselves, and that will transpire to other people in your relationships. Okay, I think that's it, guys. Uh, does grief create stress? Absolutely. Um, Grief is one of the biggest stressors of all times. Like, there's books written about it. Before all this happened, I want you to know I was planning to write another book, and my book was going to be called "The Holistic Approach to Grief." No, that wasn't the real title, but that's my subject matter, because I don't think, I want to do something different, and I probably still will, but this cardiac thing happened, and I kind of caught me by surprise. It's like caught me in my tracks. Um, but it's all good, and I feel very positive about how I've dealt with this, and that I'm sharing it with you. It's a big weight off my. I don't have to act like I'm above it all. So all right, broken heart syndrome. That's a good question. Now, broken heart syndrome. People are asking about this. The name is Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. I guess from Dr. Takotsubo, whoever he is, some Japanese doctor. So that usually is after an acute event. It happens more in women than men, but it happened in men too. I'm not a sexist about this. I mean, but what happens is that a stressful and actually causes the heart to just fail. It just dysfunctions. And I actually have done a couple of angiograms in the past with women, two women actually, that had this syndrome, and I brought them to the cath lab. Coronary arteries are like totally normal, totally no blockages, but the heart is not pumping well. But it's a good prognosis, because usually after a few weeks, the heart function returns. I don't think anyone understands the mechanism behind it, but that truly is what we know as the broken heart syndrome. Um, I didn't have that, because that would have been more acute. That happens shortly after an event. I mean, I dealt with the grief and the stress of that grief on a daily basis. I talk to this person every day as if he was still here. Um, it's part of my prayers, and it's I keep things going. So I deal with it the best way I can. But grief is a big stressor, and I think anybody would agree with that. Okay. Did I miss anything? There's grief. Great. Yeah, we did that one. Um, I think we did. We talked about most of it. I think we got it, guys. All right. Thank you so much. I enjoyed sharing this with you. Like I said, this is my one YouTube live that didn't have an outline. I have no notes, no outline. But it was very important for me to share this with you. And we'll go on. We'll probably meet again. I'll have a couple of lectures coming up in August for the Chiropractic Association. But I will do at least one in August, and we'll start off with some new programs in September. Thank you much. Please share these with other people. And if you please press that like button because it does help with my subscribers and subscribe, and also the book. Okay, you can go to the website that Tony created for me. It's called BeYourOwnMedicalAdvocate.com. Again, BeYourOwnMedicalAdvocate.com. And it's devoted to the book itself. Um, it's opposed to my practice website. And if you get the book, which I hope you will, please go back to Amazon afterwards and write me a favorable review because it really helps. It really helps to get reviews. More the merrier. Okay, guys, thank you. And have a good few weeks, and I'll speak to you sometime in August. Thank you, everybody. Good night.